music.
He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minutes!
Hello, and welcome once again to Bat Minutes Returns, the podcast where we fall on our knees in front of Tim Burton's 1992 Batman sequel, Batman Returns, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And waddling into view like a morose penguin, it is I, John Parker.
And sweeping up the dead leaves in the background is the graveyard keeper, Father David Mowry. I'm a Roman Catholic priest from the Diocese of Joliet in Illinois.
Hi. Oh, well, welcome, Father. Nice to have you here.
Great to be here.
And I remember even in booking you, we kind of had to apologize for being so on the nose with the minute we're giving you, considering there's a lot of religious imagery going on here.
Well, look, I never have to apologize for calling in a specialist to deal with his area of expertise, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. I have a brand, and I maintain it very ferociously.
Hey. No, I remember listening to you on Indiana Jones Minute, and they were wonderful, wonderful episodes. So thank you again
thanks.
for joining.
Oh, yeah, I had a lot of fun with the Indiana Jones boys. A little different religious themes in this movie than in The Last Crusade, though, I would say.
Yes, somewhat. We have talked quite a bit how there's a lot of things with the penguin seemingly being compared to a kind of twisted, evil version of Moses, which has been very strange throughout this film.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's just they keep bringing up religious imagery, not just Moses, but Jesus as well. It's what are they going for here? But
yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but we can get to that once we're ran out of things to talk about in this action-packed minute 42. Oh my god, the things that happen. Minute 42 begins with the penguin approaching his parents' grave, and it ends a minute later with the penguin walking away from his parents' grave.
What a roller coaster!
In between? Yeah.
You don't exactly see this kind of breakneck pace in the modern Marvel movies. It's a different sense of more slower, more sedate in the Marvel movies these days.
Yeah. They're known for taking a long time with their scenes, no quick cuts, things like that.
That's right. No, I was struck by just how different a movie this is because of the era in which it was made and because of Tim Burton, focusing much more on atmosphere, focusing much more on the mood of the piece. It's evocative of comic books in a different way, in the way it lingers on the scene and the stark lighting with the light coming in onto the cross on top of the grave, and the just letting that image of Penguin walking forward. It could be just this bringing to life of a comic book panel.
Yeah. It's interesting because Tim Burton, we've talked about this before, he isn't that big on comic books. He's not a huge fan. He doesn't hate them or anything. He just never really got into them. But he does still understand the way they're sort of composed, I think, because there's a lot of shots throughout the whole movie and the last movie that you could imagine them on the page.
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes too just from the fact that he's, was one time a Disney animator, so he just knows how to present things. Yeah, it was in the mid '80s. He was an animator for Disney, and then he obviously went off in his own direction. But now it's appropriate because remaking Dumbo. So it's I guess the boys, the prodigal son returns.
That makes so much sense now. I wondered why, of all properties, was Tim Burton interested in the flying elephant story. That makes so much sense now.
I'm looking forward to that because I don't know if it's going to be great or terrible, and I'm excited to find out either way.
It's going to look really interesting either way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I'm looking forward to it because it looks very schmaltzy to me, and I'm not a big schmaltz guy. So, but the thing is, I guess because it might be the only Tim Burton movie to come out while me and John are doing the Tim Burton era of Batman, so we might have to do like a special episode review of it or something like that. But
there you go,
live from the theater.
Just like.
Excuse me, sir, you can't bring those microphones in here.
It's okay, we're professionals.
We're press. But speaking, though, of Tim Burton's other movies, there's mentioned briefly off mic, there's, in the opening seconds of this clip, it's an infamous gaffe or goof in the movie that some people attribute as a tribute to another Tim Burton movie and another Tim Burton director. But no, both you guys said you didn't spot this, and I don't blame you, because
I was just so distracted by Danny DeVito's raw charisma, I just couldn't see anything else.
But because this is one of these things, though, I had heard about this. It's like, oh yeah, you notice in the graveyard scene. And I was like, no. And even then, and like looked it up specifically, like I know there's supposed to be a goof here. And I had to look it up on YouTube. And even when I watched the 4-second video of it happening, I was still like, where is it? And now I see it, though. Now that I've literally had someone, like, I've seen sites where they draw a circle around it and stuff. As the penguin is approaching the grave, his hand grazes past the gravestone beside him, and it visibly wobbles backward and then wobbles forward again. So it's like, it's pretty much again.
There it wobbling. Is. That is so subtle. Oh.
I'm going to pretend that it's just that grave is so old. Clearly, it's not a brand new prop. I'm just going to say that's why. It's falling apart. It's falling down.
It's like the I don't know, the sister moment to in the first movie when like Batman spins around with the Joker's helicopter and you can see his belt fall down a little bit. I remember we pointed out that, and I remember we had Kiri Callaghan on. She was just like watching that little loop of it over and over again, really mesmerized by it. It was like, yeah, they have that kind of similar thing here. But
the thing that annoys me though the most is that now that you've mentioned it, I realize, I did hear about this. I've forgotten. I'm stupid. I'm doing that much in-depth research. I'd forgotten about the obvious stuff.
It's proper, like you can't see the forest for the trees kind of business here. It's like, it's literally right in front of you. It's like, where is it? Is it up in the sky? What's going on?
Oh yeah, there it goes. I'm watching it wobble right now. Oh gosh.
But some people though was pointed out that the eerily similar though to the wobbling gravestones in Ed Wood's Plan 9 from Outer Space, and considering that Tim Burton's next movie was the biopic of Ed Wood, some people are like, oh, it's a deliberate tribute. And I'm sure Tim Burton nowadays will be like, yep, that's exactly what it is. It's
I'm not buying that for 1 second.
How many directors have to have those explanations ready to hand in this era of micro scrutinization of all of their work? Yeah, that was totally intentional. Good job spotting it. You're a modern Sherlock. You are.
Especially because some people aren't like us and don't find that fun. Some people get angry about goofs like this, don't they? They actually like do YouTube videos like, this is a terrible movie because this, that, and this. And it's, some people get very violent.
Yeah, the commercialization of movie nitpicking.
Yeah.
But this is so subtle, though, as well. So even as a person going through it minute by minute, I had to literally get someone to... well, not someone, but I had to go searching the internet for some video to literally go, there it is, right there. And it's like, oh, yeah, now I see it. Oh, of course.
So, Niall, you are the human equivalent of a red circle. Yeah, because you've pointed it out to us. Thank you.
I'm sure there's probably plenty of people listening, though, who did know about that. And like, what do you mean you didn't spot it all this time? But it's like there's nothing else happening in this scene beyond that freaking tombstone wobbling now.
It's an emotional scene, though, so you're not really paying attention to that because, well, actually, no, this is what's interesting. Is it an emotional scene or is it all fake? Well, I think the idea is, look, the penguin is overacting, right? Well, Danny DeVito is overacting.
Oh,
but
never.
The penguin is too. Never, of course. But the penguin is too, because he doesn't really care about his parents, does he?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, like it's.
Well, when I watched this minute in isolation, I just watched this minute by itself before going back to see the rest of the movie. And for a moment, I had forgotten the plot because I could have sworn, boy, I remember Penguin being this two-faced, manipulative character, but the cinematography, the music in this scene, all tells you that this character is sincere, with the falling to the knees and the bell going off when he hits the ground, the down shot from behind the cross onto the figure praying and the light coming in. Everything is framed in such a way to make you sincerely believe that he is having a profound moment at this grave. And it's only when you watch the rest of the movie you realize, oh, okay, no, this is all a sham. But even the movie, even the cinematography itself is aiding the deception in this scene.
It's good. So do you think this is like a dual thing? It's for, obviously, there's a gathered crowd outside. It's for them, isn't it? It's like fake.
Oh, totally.
But it's also for us, the viewers, to draw us in, because you do kind of sympathize with the penguin quite a lot.
Yeah, because I think there's a dropped theme in the movie where if I think on the cutting room floor there are scenes that indicate Penguin may be having a change of heart, where Penguin actually might try to be an actual member of society. Because he has that moment at the end, near the end of the movie, where he strips off all the finery and I'm not a human being, I'm a monster. And there's an indication to me there that, okay, well, maybe there were elements of a conversion in here, and this scene is meant to play with our expectations and meant to make us think as an audience, okay, maybe there is something redeemable in this character.
Yeah, because I've brought it up a few times. The theme seems to be with him, there's one of nature versus nurture. Like, was he born evil, or was he made evil by what's happened to him? So it all kind of all ties together with that, I think. Like, you could easily have is he going to turn good? Is he maybe going to help Batman? You could play on that a little bit if you wanted to.
I think the conversion element of him only really comes into play once he's put on this political path of, like, this guy's going to be the mayor. Because I think that's when he's like... His plan at present is to get up there, get access to these, the birth certificates, and then launch into some sort of like, I'm going to kill all the firstborn sons, and that's my plan. And it's only then like Max Schreck is like, you could be mayor, and it has a moment of like, all right, I'll be mayor, and then he kind of gets swept up in it where he's going around with like the tux and the top hat, and he's really, really into it. And then
I love that scene. Your table is ready, Mr. Cobblepot.
But when he and he gets that all torn away from him, and that's when he goes down. He's like, I'm not a human being, I am an animal. And then it's like that's the moment he's like, well, bring me my lists, give me the names. He goes straight back into his original plan and stuff.
Well, I think he felt the world had failed him again. Even though you could say it's, of course, his fault. But from his point of view,
he did
they
eat that
failed
cat.
me again. Yes.
The thing is, it's not so much even the world fails him. It's like one Batman screws him, and then it's also Max Schreck, the guy who's also met the ire of the film's other villain. He's the one who fails him, really, because the Penguin looks to Max for help, and Max just shrugs his shoulders and goes, "Well, that's business, baby," and kind of walks away from him. So like I think that's that's why then if not the world over, it's like that one guy in particular as well, but. But here, talking about people who failed the Penguin, we have approaching the ultimate people who failed him, the parents who friggin' threw him out. So.
But again, can you blame them? Should they? It's an interesting thing to. No, but what I mean is, it's an interesting thing to think about. You're supposed to consider this fact because he was like a monster from day one, but could they have changed him? Maybe they could.
They are not the kind of parents who look like they're going to put any work into any of their children. Even a normal child would not have received very much affection and affirmation from those parents.
Yeah.
The thing that was killing me just looking at this, if you consider this from the perspective of an orphan who has discovered his parents, to walk up to the graves and have the parents solely defined by their relationship with each other. No sense of father or mother or even any other siblings. They were a totally closed off system with no room in their lives, and indeed even in death, for mention of anyone else. It's beloved husband and what's the other one say, devoted wife.
Yeah. Actually, as well, I should mention, even in the end credits of the movie, it just refers to them as like, Penguin's mother and Penguin's father. But you see here, they've got names. Those, Tucker Cobblepot and Esther Cobblepot. But here's the thing, though. I was thinking, and this is me just getting into like conspiracy mode, okay? Because this is a shared grave. We don't know how the Cobblepots died. We don't know when they die, but we do know
liver
that
poisoning, probably.
But the thing is, we do know that, like, from, just minutes just previous, from Batman's saying to Alfred, like, I think he knows who his parents are, there's something else. And the fact that, like, so the Penguin knew when he was coming up already who his parents were, like, he had discovered this beforehand. Mm-hmm. Do we think that there's a possibility that the Penguin actually killed his parents? Like, maybe he did this. Maybe in years prior, he had gone to them, going, like, he had discovered who they were, and he's like, I'm back, like, I know, like, maybe we forgive all this. Or maybe he was just like, I'm due an inheritance, you people completely shafted me, and they're just like, throw this guy out. And then through some manner, maybe poisoning, maybe rigged their car to crash, because they're in a shared grave. So you could say that maybe they died at the same time.
Maybe. I could see that being the case, that Penguin coming for them.
Yeah. You could have rigged it so they actually died, and then he's just like, okay, what I'm going to do then is, maybe he was hoping, I can get, like, some money out of this as well, and they found, like, no, they've literally, as you were saying, Father, like, on the grave, there's nothing to indicate that they had anyone else in their lives except each other. So right. There was nothing beyond sheer revenge to do with killing them. And then after, it's like, well, wait a couple of years, then I know I can go up. I am now Oswald Cobblepot. Everyone, I've got a name behind me. I don't have these annoying parents to be around, scuppering my plans. And then he can just go about his business. He go about his actual, the plan he's set into motion. But maybe he needed to get the parents out of the way first. He's like, well, I can't go up. They're going to be knocking around, so I better get rid of them first. And
you're making me want a prequel, and I don't say that lightly. I would love to see that play out on the big screen.
Yeah. Nowadays, though, because you always get, before big movies come out, there would be like a tie-in prequel comic or something, or like, what was Justin Hammer up to before Iron Man 2? And it's like, who cares? But this one,
who cares about Justin Hammer? But the Penguin, that's different. And Niall, the thing I like about that theory, it lines up very well with the kind of flowers that he lays on the grave. These are awful flowers. These are terrible. I am in a Tim Burton movie, and so every rose is going to be this black withered husk. But if the Penguin has killed his parents, then it symbolizes the withering of his love for them. And all he has to offer as a son to his parents is this withered, dried up token of affection that does not have the vibrancy and the life that a real sense of filial devotion would carry.
Yeah. And you could say, there's only one flower for each of them. That could represent each of them, basically. He doesn't bring a bunch of flowers. He doesn't bring any kind of arrangement. It's like, here's one for you, here's one for you.
Well, to be fair, though, it does also present a nice mirror to, I don't know, this probably been around the same point in the last movie, with Bruce Wayne laying the roses at the site where his parents were shot. So it's kind of it's creating a mirror image of like, well, Bruce Wayne is a rich guy, lost his parents. Penguin was a rich kid, parents lost him, threw him out, and this is
how.
Yeah. So it's once again setting up that he is the like many Batman villains, he is a dark mirror image of Batman himself.
I like something as well that ties in with the whole presentation of these movies, the way you can't get a handle on when it's set. We've said this a few times. Like, so here, like, there's no dates on the graves.
Yeah.
No.
Which I found interesting, because clearly that's a choice to go, I don't want to date this film in any way. You'll still be guessing, when is it set? Where is it set even? Is it in
and
our
it's not
world?
even being cute with dates. It's not like there are dates, but, they're covered by the snow, so we can't tell exactly when they died and lived.
But then we, Danny Elfman's score here really, really driving it home with like.
Oh, good. I was hoping we could talk about the music, because I love the music in this scene. Like I said earlier, the cinematography and the music both make you start to question, is this a sincere religious moment? Because you have this nice, almost spiritual whimsy kind of feel to it, a nice requiem with the soft strings and the harp and the bells evoking heavenly themes and light ethereal music as he's in this moment of prayer and contemplation before the cross, this powerful religious symbol. And then when he stands up, we get into a march of menace. It descends back into earthly tones of lots of brass and woodwinds as he wobbles his way through the graveyard. Okay, well, that moment of whimsy is done. Now it's back to mischief and no good, Nick.
It is like I've got this out of the way, this thing I had to do. Let's get down to business. Let's go do what I'm really here for.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a tonal shift of just like, oh my god, it's so sad. And, all right, back to business. Like that's that done.
Yeah, it's that 3-note descending, the 4-note descending, ba 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 into the march that makes that transition so good.
But then of course though we get classic shot here of during the music's grandeur as it's sweeping into a sort of very tragic version of the Penguin theme. We get him staring up here at the crucifix above the tombstone. One thing we'll point out, because I think we mentioned it very briefly way back at the beginning, but I know that there is apparently there's a contingent of fandom online that believes that the Penguin is an anti-Semitic character, that he's supposed to be a stereotypically Jewish kind of person, like, or not a person, but like that's what Tim Burton's going for. And it's sort of like, well, it's got this Moses and the Reed story, and the thing is, and one of them was like, oh, Esther Cobblepot, Esther's a Jewish name, etc., etc.
There's whole articles all about this. There's more than one. There's quite a few, which is strange because I don't think Tim Burton would go down that sort of route at all.
Not at all, no. But like, particularly though, here it's immediately disproven. It's like, well, he's looking up at a big crucifix, so it's like, well, obviously the family aren't Jewish. They've got a cross on the grave, so
right. Well, at least Tucker was Christian.
Oh yeah. But and that's the thing though, like, because we can get into like your opinion on what is actually going on in the movie though, Father, because we see like he's looking at the cross and he's kind of got his arms spread, almost in like a very lackadaisical crucifix kind of form, and like we've noted before, like, yes, there is parallels to Moses in the beginning, and the basket going in the river, and you can say at the end, like, all the firstborn sons, and plague coming upon Gotham. But then firstborn sons is also King Herod and Jesus, and of the fact that the Penguin's born around Christmas, and he dies later in the movie. Spoilers: the Penguin dies at the end of this movie at age
I didn't know
at age 33, and it seems to be like they're presenting him. And actually, you could argue at the end of this very minute when he approaches the gates and you see the crowd, and like that's a split second. Like, so I'm not too sure whether that's this minute or next minute, but you see some people. Like there's a on the far right of that gate, there's a guy and a girl who, like, the guy's got like crazy Tim Burton hair times 10, and the girl's got like a little beret, and they look like they're a couple, and they're gazing at the Penguin in absolute awe, as if he is almost like a messianic figure coming towards us. Like, this guy's going to tell us what to do. And when you watch the movie, what do you think that they're going for with that? Like, do you think it's some sort of...
Yeah, certainly there are a lot of religious themes and references throughout the movie. So just starting from the beginning of the movie, I just took notes as I watched it. There are cherubic angel figures on the gates to the Cobblepot estate. And the interior of the Cobblepot mansion is this place filled with light, and there are lots of tones of white and gold, especially in the great big Christmas tree that they have there. So is there a sense that the Penguin is a fallen angel? He's being cast out of heaven. Then there's the anti-Moses themes, where he is being put in a basket in the river, not to be saved, but to be destroyed. And then later, when he's talking with Shrek, he talks about how, you come from, and he points up. Like, that's where I come from. I come from above, which, to me set off alarm. It's like, oh, well, that's what Jesus said. Yeah. Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this earth, but is from above. So, and he talks about he is ready to ascend. He's ready to be lifted up into this place. So taking all these things together, taking alongside as you mentioned, Niall, the twisting of the death of the firstborn son into a revenge motif, it seems to me that Penguin is being presented as something of an anti-Christ or anti-Moses figure, but always, I think, in the reference of a Batman movie.
Yeah.
The great thing about the Batman villains is that they are dark reflections of Batman himself. The villains represent what Batman could have become. Batman could have been twisted by revenge. He could have let that dark place start to define him, to make him feel like he lost something and is owed something, and so has to go out and take it. Instead, Batman, through a series of choices, decides rather to give back, to give out of his place of loss in order to right the wrongs that put him where he is right now, whereas Penguin seeks to magnify those wrongs, to have everyone participate in his loss, that loss of the death of family, of the loss of connection, and all the rest. So that theme is at play at the beginning of the movie, and then when we get into the intricacies of the plot itself, that gets dropped somewhat. The last reference we have to it, I would say, is in the final scenes when the Penguin is giving his Hitler-esque speech to his army of penguins, and he talks about it's not just the firstborn sons, but all of God's children must now be punished. And so that to me was the moment where he takes on this anti-Christ moment, that instead of a savior for all, he has become the destroyer of all, wishing to wage war on all of God's children and to tear down those who think themselves safe. And then the other thing that kind of shows Batman as the savior figure, because the last line of the movie is goodwill toward men and women. That there is this sense that the goodwill towards others is what survives, is what triumphs. And Batman tries to save Catwoman. He doesn't try to save the Penguin, so no goodwill there, unfortunately. So falling a bit short of the mark on that one.
He's a busy man.
Yeah, well, it's only so much saving you can do in a day.
Yeah, exactly.
It does that business of where it's like, hey, technically I didn't kill him. Like, it's just the same thing he did with the Joker. It's like, I just attached him to a gargoyle. I didn't kill him. But it's just like, yeah, I got a bunch of bastards swarm at him. I didn't push him into the toxic waste, though. That's all on him. Like, he should have watched where he was going. So, like,
yeah, he didn't strap a bomb to him and push him into the sewer.
Yeah, we got that coming up in a couple of weeks, actually.
So it's something they return to, really, because in Batman Begins, they do a very similar thing with the villain at the end. Batman, of course, he doesn't kill him; he just doesn't save him.
That's
exactly
that always feels like a bit of a moral cop out to me.
Yeah,
the thing is, it's like, oh, he doesn't kill the main villains, but it's like in that first one, he threw that goon like through that bell tower. There's no way he wasn't going to die. And then, as you said, there's a guy straps a bomb to in a minute. So it's like, I won't kill the big shots, but the little people, I don't care about them. Like,
yeah, they play kind of fast and loose with that, don't they?
But that's actually, it's an interesting topic for discussion, particularly recently, because I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's been a kerfuffle on the internet of all places. About the recent ongoing Tom King run of Batman, where he is put out that he suggested in issue 53 that Bruce Wayne is in fact an atheist, and of course the internet reacted to this in a very calm and orderly fashion, and they didn't.
Oh, I'm sure. Yes.
They did not pile on this at all. No, they went crazy. And the thing is, it's like all is done, and again, this is mid storyline. This is no definitive thing. And it's like the character could change, but no, this is outrageous. They've has the because we'll actually have to cover that Tom King storyline. It's again so many. This movie is so appropriate to cover this year. So many parallels everywhere, and it's just the fact that this is the comic line of Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle getting married is actually happening at the minute. But they. Currently in the story, Catwoman has dumped Batman on their wedding day, and he gives a speech a few issues later where he references the fact that his family was Christian when he was growing up, and then after the Wayne murders, he was sort of left adrift and didn't know what to do, and so then he couldn't believe in any kind of higher power because he's like, well, why would this happen to me, and et cetera, et cetera. And then eventually he says that he built up the idea of Batman would become his god, basically, as a thing to ascend to, and a thing to look up to, and something to sort of a standard to hold himself to was Batman. And then after the events of the storyline, he doesn't do that anymore, and he's just like, well, I just don't believe in anything at the minute. And that's basically like them saying, yeah, he's kind of like an atheist. And then the internet was like, what? You can't do this. And it's one of those things. It's like, it's an interesting story, and it's fair enough, you know. it's not definitively stating anything. But then throughout, you know, Batman's whole run, it's not as if this is the first time it's happened, because it's always been like, well, it depends on who's writing him. Because you'll have, like, way back in 1939, you had issues with Bill Finger was writing issues where you'd see a young Bruce Wayne praying by his bedside. And you're like, oh, there you go, he's religious. And you'll see at the on the Wayne tombstones, they'll also have crucifixes or angels or something above them. It's like, well, there's, you know, religion as well. But then you get, and even like the Dark Knight Returns, like the infamous, you know, Frank Miller, for all his political craziness that he's doing nowadays. He's obviously a very religious person in himself. He writes a lot for Daredevil, who of course is a very intensely Catholic, you know, character, and he brings a lot of his own, Catholic leanings into that story where he's talking about, you know, Batman's going about, and he's talking about the night is like a baptism and I am reborn, and the fact that Bruce Wayne's grave at the end of that story has a crucifix on it and stuff. But then at the same time, you'll get, probably enough, Sam Hamm wrote Blind Justice. You know, Sam Hamm, who did a pass of this script for this movie, wrote the last movie. But he had, in that, you know, Bruce Wayne was exploring all religions. He was a Buddhist for a bit, and then he was going into, when he's off training to be Batman, he would get into all the different Eastern philosophies. And then you'll flat out get other stories where, like, in the Under the Red Hood storyline, where Jason Todd is resurrected. And Batman's just going around to everyone he knows, going to like Zatanna, going to everyone who has any kind of otherworldly abilities, going like, I'm a man of science. I cannot believe that this is a resurrection. This is not possible. Even going to Superman, who himself died and came back. And Superman going like, hey, you know, it's not all science, Bruce. And he's just like, I refuse to believe that this is some sort of divine, you know, intervention and stuff.
But his friend has risen.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, but that's...
So, Clark, you're basically Jesus. So this can't happen, right?
I was like, Bruce, you have fought literal gods on other planets, and you don't buy this? No, I don't buy it.
I do like the idea, though, whether you look at it in a religious angle or not, but the idea that he sort of holds Batman as someone he wants to be, like someone he looks up to, and he's trying to be this figure of Batman that he's created. And sometimes he might not live up to it, he might fail, but he's trying to be this kind of mythical, like, creation of his. That's very well done in the Dark Knight, actually, because, you know, again, they keep talking in like that whole trilogy about him being a symbol. And he has that bit where, like, you see all the scars and stuff on his back, and then it's like, you know, like, when, you know, Alfred's saying, when are you going to learn your limits, Master Wayne? And he's just like, oh, Batman has no limits. Like, but you do. It's like, he is treating himself as if he's a superhuman. Was like, look at you, you're a wreck. Like, you can't achieve these things that you want to achieve because you're not a symbol, and you're a physical person.
Yeah, and that theme comes up in this movie as well, where Bruce admits to maybe not being able to resolve and reconcile his duality, and how that pushes other people away because he's not a complete person in and of himself. He puts all of his virtue, all of his goodness, everything he aspires to be in this other personality, which he is not. And that stunts his own moral growth and personal development as a human being, because he's split himself right down the center. And so he can't be whole. And that gets darkly reflected in Penguin. Penguin lives in these two worlds, the above world and the sewer world. And when that split is revealed, when that duality is revealed in the jammed signal scene, when his mockery gets broadcast to all of Gotham, that just breaks him. It makes him incapable of being that human being, and he descends into being that monster. And now what you were talking about, I always find it interesting to consider these, you know, superhero figures, these people possessed of marvelous abilities beyond human ken, struggling with those very human questions. Is there a God? Is there a higher power? What is my purpose in life? Because the superpowers, magnify those questions so that they can be more clearly understood. If you have someone with the ability to breathe underwater and to phase through walls, what is the destiny of that? What is the purpose for having those things? And is there some kind of higher order that has arranged things so? And seeing it in such an extreme case allows us mere mortals to ask the same questions of ourselves. And we all have certain opportunities, certain powers, you might even say, or certain talents. Okay, and is there a higher purpose? Is there a reason for engaging in these things? Is there something good, something higher that's involved with doing this? And to have, someone having a spiritual journey like, in the current run of the Batman comics is honest, it's good, it's healthy, and in the end he's a fictional character, so he exists in order to ask these questions and to show these struggles in a way that people can relate to. My job is to help those real people, like, okay, well, come and talk to a God expert. I'm happy to have these conversations with you. And, maybe Bruce just needed a good confession after his parents died. Maybe he just needed someone to talk to afterwards.
No, it's good that these do come up, because that's why we remember and attach ourselves to these stories and these characters. It's not, this character's cool, he can, breathe underwater, as you said. That's not really what we're finding interesting, is it? That's just a vehicle to deliver these other sort of messages and things we can get attached to.
That stands as a testament to the fact that, like, the most prevailing popular characters, it seems to keep, popping up as being the best. It's like the people who are like, nowadays a lot of people don't seem to really like Superman because he's just as overpowered. He can do everything. Like, Superman can only not do the things you haven't seen him do. Like, that's his limitation.
He also hasn't had a good movie since the 1970s, so I think that has something to do with it.
I think the second one is the last one I probably really liked, and that was a long time ago.
Long time.
A long time.
But then you even get, like, now, like, the insane popularity of, like, the Marvel Netflix series, and then it's like, well, who is the most popular of those? It's like, well, Jessica Jones, that's she has got superhuman strength and whatnot, but then it's their abilities and whatnot. But at the same time, he is just a guy trying to achieve supernatural things. But he's still, and much again like Batman, it's like he's just a guy, but he's just like he's attempting to go beyond the pale. Even Tony Stark as well. It's like he's just a guy, but he's intelligent enough that he can build this stuff though, and that's what kind of makes him an intrigue. Like, he's trying to ascend into a superhuman plane when he is in fact just a mere mortal and whatnot as well.
Well, to be fair, Daredevil and Batman are just guys in the sense that a bullet will kill them. They are still both ninjas, however.
Aren't we all?
I missed that class in college. I slept through it.
I do wonder as well, though, like, if Burton is within, like, even within this scene, like in the framing of everything that's going on, is he trying to almost either talk about the fallibility of everybody? Because, as I mentioned, again, we get throughout the rest of the movie when the Penguin sort of becomes this grand political figure, and everyone's really looking up to him. It's like, this is the guy who's going to save the city. And, like, everyone, we would say as a comment on, modern politics or just politics in general, the fact that anyone who places so much faith in one person, you will inevitably find out that they are, despite appearances, have some deep-rooted flaws in them. And even the way the shot of the grave, of, like, the Cobblepot's grave is like, this grand light shining down on the crucifix atop them makes it look like this grand, noble people, when in fact we know that the Cobblepots were absolute scumbags who threw their baby in the river.
Right. And that note you made about the crowd's adulation, both at the end of this minute and then other places in the movie, reminds me of the dynamic between Jesus and the crowds. Jesus was always wary of the crowd carrying him off. He would always tell his disciples, tell no one that I am the Messiah. And when the crowds come and try to make him king, he slips through the midst of them and disappears down a side alleyway, because Christ knows that this is not who I'm supposed to be. This is not what I am about. And these people are looking for something that I'm not going to give them. And we, as human beings, we look for that leader. We look for that Cinderella story, or the Penguin story even. Oh, here's a man who grew up in the sewers. He saves a baby. Now he's going to be mayor. Isn't this great? This is America. Oh, boy. And and then having those expectations dashed, causes everyone it reveals the truth of Penguin's character. In Jesus' story, when the truth of his character is revealed and he's on the cross, likewise, the crowd turns away from him. But it's not because he's revealed to be so horrible, like the Penguin. It's revealed he is so much better than anyone. And that is too much for some people to take and to handle. And even his own disciples abandon him in that moment. Oh.
Yeah, well, because we were just genuinely so confused the whole time. It's like, why are they trying to paint the Penguin as like this? Because again, when he dies and stuff, the music turns quite tragic, and it's like, yeah, they're portraying him in almost this messianic imagery, and the fact that they've got this recurring themes where you feel a bit bad for him and stuff. Why? He's a sleazy pervert and stuff. But it does make perfect sense. Like literally, they're only doing it to be like, well, he is reminding you of that, but he's actually the flip of that.
Right.
So yeah. Oh, that's well pointed out. Like we should have thought of that ages ago.
See, it's much more interesting to me than any other interpretation of the Penguin.
Yeah.
Because normally he's just like a gangster or something, or a rich guy who's got weird umbrellas and a big nose. Like that's not interesting. Nobody cares about that. You can't get involved and invested and care about that, can you?
Yeah. I'm sure though, like the thing is, because we could well be seeing the Penguin's return to screen or the big screen, because I know it's a big deal in Gotham. But like the rumor currently is that Andy Serkis is going to be playing him in this upcoming The Batman movie, if it should ever get made. If it stars Ben Affleck, we don't even know what's going on.
They're making another one?
They apparently the guy who, Matt Reeves, the guy who did like those recent Planet of the Apes movies, who's like he's a good filmmaker. He is doing apparently they've been really, really working on this script, as if they've kind of gone like, yeah, we're really screwing the pooch with these movies. We have to take this seriously now. So apparently, there is a script in development written by Matt Reeves that apparently is very, very good. We don't know for sure at the moment if Ben Affleck is playing the part or if they're going to replace him with someone else. And apparently they're saying the villain looks like it's going to be the Penguin, and Andy Serkis is attached. So it's like, well, Andy Serkis would be a really good version of the Penguin. Actually, he kind of looks like him already. So
I could see that. Yeah. As of recording, the rumor is that Affleck is back in because he was spotted at the studio, I think, in really top shape. So it's like, oh, well, he's going to be playing Batman again. But who knows? We had a script in his hand as well in the photo. But it was curled up. You couldn't see what it was.
The thing is, though, like, in comparison to like me, Ben Affleck always looks in great shape. So it's like, well...
Fair point.
The thing is, though, because it's I kind of feel Affleck hasn't had a fair shake at it, because the movie's been in, both times have been like, yeah, it's not been the best script that he's got for. Like, I think this guy could play a good Batman. It's just that the character they're giving him is just like, it's not the best version of the character.
I like Affleck's Bruce Wayne more than I like his Batman. I think he played Bruce Wayne very well. I was on for a couple minutes of Dawn of Justice minute, and we had those scenes in the burned out husk of Wayne Manor, and there was some good acting that went on in that scene.
Yeah, he really surprised me, because I'm not a huge fan of his normally, and when he was announced as Batman, I was just thinking, oh no. But he was one of the best things in those films, actually. I was very surprised.
The thing is, though, because one of the rumors also is that they're going to go for a younger version of Batman. I'll be like, oh, this will be, like, once again, it'll be kind of like an origin story.
Teen Batman. For the kids.
Because we really need that.
But the person that brought up the play him, again, this is all just rumor and conjecture, but I heard the name Jack Houston going around. And Jack Houston, people don't know, is the guy in Boardwalk Empire who has like half a face and stuff. But he doesn't in real life, obviously. He's got a full face.
No.
Also, too, I think is he the son of Angelica Houston? But then Angelica Houston going out with Jack Nicholson for years. It's all tied back into the Batman life.
Everything's connected. Yeah. I'm surprised Angelica Houston hasn't worked like non-stop with Tim Burton. To be honest.
I don't know. Maybe she heard bad things from Jack. But I thought Jack seems to be a big fan of his, so I don't know why that would have happened.
Yeah.
But no, hearing Jack Houston, it's just like, oh, that would be good casting. Oh, do that instead. It's like, don't waste time with Ben Affleck anymore. Go back to this guy.
Well, back in the actual minute, I mean, not much is happening, but as I say, Penguin walking towards the crowds there. I love this long, lingering shot of him. You see the whole walk, slow and deliberately paced. I like any movie that takes the time to let you actually soak it in and watch this waddle.
It's just because you're a big David Lynch fan, John, and you like me, you just were reminded of the second season finale of Twin Peaks of that old guy walking across the bank. Where you're just
it did cross my mind.
Doing the whole thing. Huh?
It's another one of those comic book panels brought to life. This is the kind of thing that would be like the splash page in the middle of the book. You can just imagine it beautifully illustrated in detail with the light and the shadows and Penguin coming in his top hat an umbrella. Yeah, it's a nice shot. It's so slow. Like 30 years on, you think, oh my gosh, where's the movie? Just seeing this dumpy man walking down the path.
That's what I love about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I enjoy it anyway, but these days you would not get this shot. There's no way this would be in a new movie.
But one thing that always struck me about it when I was a kid, and still it's instilled in my head to today, is like the light on his umbrella when it shines off, because you're seeing like, oh, it's a black umbrella, and then that light blazes on it and it doesn't look quite as jet black anymore. I remember when I was a kid, it's like, oh, it's like a navy umbrella this whole time. I didn't realize that. Well, that brings to mind now. It's like, well, while you're here, Father, I might as well ask, because I don't know if you're familiar with the TV show Father Ted. It's like Irish comedy about priests.
I have heard of it and seen quotes on the internet, but that is my extent of contact.
But I grew up with Father Ted, so I've got a bias. So I'll say, oh, it's fantastic. You should check it out. But they have a scene where they're talking about, oh yeah, I've ordered a few things from a catalog. Priest socks, very black. And it's like, then the other priest is saying to him, like, oh, that's true, Ted. I've read in an article somewhere that priest socks are blacker than any other sock. And he's like, that's right. If you go to a layperson with black socks, you look at it closely, it's actually a very, 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 very dark blue. It's like, so while you're here, Father, we have to ask, can you verify this as being true? Are priest socks blacker than other socks?
Well, Niall, you shouldn't believe everything you hear on TV. I'm afraid. I go down to the general store and get my black socks, same as anybody else.
Yeah, that's what you're telling us now.
Well,
I'm jealous.
It is a problem though. Wearing all black, my black will fade over time, and so you get to the point where the black shirts that the priest wears are more gray than black, and that's when I rely on my people to say, Father, you're looking a little shabby. You need to get a new shirt. Like, oh, really? Oh, okay, thanks.
Oh, it'd be a nightmare around my house. I have a cat. Oh, if I wear black, you might as well just not bother going out.
Yeah, there are priests who have dogs and cats as pets, and I don't know how they do it. Every time I go over to visit one of my brother priests who has a pet, I walk away with an entire animal's worth of fur on my body.
And you can't seem to get rid of it for like 3 months or something, even with those rollers. It just doesn't come off.
Yeah. Like there's this one strand, it's right here, and it just won't come off.
But I think, like, in terms of the action for the minute, that's all the notes I've got. So you guys, do you have anything else about what's happening on screen here, or?
No. All this scene made me think of though was like I was watching A Nightmare Before Christmas, because it's it's very Tim Burton. It's got the music of Danny Elfman. It's in a graveyard. It's over the top. So I just kept thinking of that movie, which this whole film makes me think of that.
Yeah. We've covered before, John. It wasn't directed by Tim Burton.
I know. Everyone thinks Tim Burton directed that. But, yeah.
Although, to be fair, it does have Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas on the title. It's just like, that's how you get away with things. Like, I've been doing that. I just go around. I went to, they brought out that Avatar movie. I just put Tim Burton's Avatar on top of it. I get all the praise for it. It's great.
I'm going to start
Niall McGowan's Bat Minute.
No, that's not allowed. I'm going to start doing it to posters at the cinema. I'm just going to take a Sharpie and write John Parker's, I don't know, A Star Is Born.
Iron Man 3.
Yeah, Iron Man 3. Yeah. Anything. I'll just keep putting it on, and then people might hit me up on Twitter.
The thing is, the thing you directed Iron Man 3, they'll be like, oh, you directed that Predator movie that just came out as well. You're like, no, nothing to do with me.
Oh, don't remind me of that movie now. Oh, no.
Oh god! But we should also ask as well, Father. Like, what's your? Do you have any history with this movie in particular? Does it bring back fond memories of childhood, or do you have any history with Batman in general that you'd want to get off your chest?
My history with Batman is mostly through the Batman animated series, though that was in reruns by the time I was old enough to watch it. My mother was very strict in terms of my TV consumption. I remember very clearly when I was being left with a babysitter for a stretch of time when she and my dad were on vacation. One of the notes she left for the sitter was, no TV shows with men in spandex.
Oh, okay.
So Power Rangers were out, no Superman, no Batman, nothing like that.
Oh, no.
But that was, I don't know, 6, 7 years old. Time I got 8, 9, 10, I was old enough for the violence and the rest of the superhero stuff. Saw the original Batman and Batman Returns. It wasn't until I was in high school, so that was early 2000s. And getting caught up on a lot of things that I had missed as a kid.
Yeah.
And I really liked it because it reminded me of the animated series. Like, oh, well, yeah, of course, this is how Batman looks. It's dark, it's gothic, it's dripping with atmosphere.
Yes.
And that continues to be my model for it. Other than that, I've just been sort of your typical American, like, oh yeah, Superman, Batman as part of my culture. Sorry, the rest of the world, but this is what we have to give you.
No, it's a great gift to the world.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Better than McDonald's, anyway.
Oh, well, I don't know about that.
But yeah, of course, Father, if you want to talk about something that's slightly less gothic, but a lot more neon. Well, of course, we'll be covering Batman Forever next year, if you want to come back for that at any point.
I would be happy. I don't think I've actually seen that movie all the way through, despite owning a action figure of Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
It's good casting, I think, for Jim Carrey, but there are certainly some differences to this couple of movies here, yeah.
That's what I hear. I hear it changes in tone after this one.
And let me tell you, Jim Carrey, he wears some spandex in the next movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, too much. It's just like, why is he going for this Riddler onesie? What the hell's going on?
It's an interesting choice. You think he would go more with the old Riddler suit?
Yeah, well, he hints at it, but it's like he wears the jacket and then he's just got the tights on underneath.
He did that with the mask. He didn't want to be typecast as the crazy guy in the suit.
Maybe that's what it is, genuinely. Yeah, obviously we'll research it at the time, but I think that might actually be true. Well, before we head off into the dark, dark night, Father, do you have anything you'd like to promote or advise people look up on the internet or where to find you even?
If you're interested in chatting with me, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Father Mowry. That's at FRMOWRY. And I can also be found bombing around a couple different Movies by Minutes Facebook groups online. So you can look me up there.
Excellent. And if you'd like to look us up, which I'm sure you have if you've followed us this far into the journey, we are everywhere. We're on Facebook at the Bat Minute Listeners Cave. We're on Twitter at Bat Minute. We've got an Instagram. Everywhere. And review us on iTunes. Subscribe and review. That's always very, very helpful. So join us again on Monday. We'll be back with a new minute. It will be minute 43, and we will have a new guest. See you then.
Next time, an heir apparent. The penguin spreads the word that he's no flightless bird and makes an aristocratic assertion. But will his name claim lead to more fame now that he's no animal, but a person? Find out next week, same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.